You know, Dead by Daylight is just one of those games that kind of suffers from questionable choices, like the neglect of map balance, the multitude of mediocre to straight up bad perks, the Skull Merchant's release with how controversial it was, and not nerfing the pig. Okay, maybe the last one was a joke, but the one thing that's probably the worst offender to this is the massive nerfs that constantly beat the living hell out of the Hillbilly, aka Max Thompson Jr. Hi, my name is Mac Maniac, and I'm here to give you my 2 cents on behavior's neutering of good old Max Jr. Back when the game was in its infancy, the Hillbilly was added as the 3rd ever killer, and out of the 3, Hillbilly was considered the strongest because of how deadly the chainsaw sprint was compared to Trapper's bear traps and the Wraith's wailing bell. In the years to come, Hillbilly would continue to be in the high to mid tier amongst killers. The meta would involve the nurse, huntress, and of course, the Hillbilly. On top of that, he had extremely good add-ons, which would be very unfair to today's standards. Like, seriously, if you look at today's balancing, when it came to add-ons, this would only contribute to his rise. Speaking of which, along with what I mentioned in the previous chapter, the Hillbilly also had an extreme rise within the community, being considered very fun and balanced for both sides because of the counterplay involved. Because chases with the Hillbilly back then was a game of who can out-alpha who some of the time. Both sides would be able to out-alpha each other if they're careful, while characters like the nurse, on the other hand, could, just teleport and then instantly correct that teleport or blink. And the hitboxes on Huntress hashits were so clunky that some hits shouldn't have hit, and good Huntress players could just do a whole team wipe in minutes. But despite being perfectly balanced and not needing a nerf, the dreadful 4.2.0 update patch came and changed them for the worse. One, two, three. Alright, I'm ready. Let's talk about the nerf. The patch that would beat the Hillbilly into the pulp would be the patch 4.2.0. Oh boy, patch motherfucking 4.2.0. What this patch did to Hillbilly was horrible, to say the least. What they did was a whole add-on overhaul, a meter onto his chainsaw that would overheat it, and the add-ons that were added onto him that were part of the overhaul were very subpar to just straight up bad or weren't using. The items that were replaced were spark plug, primer bulb, long guide bar, depth gauge rakes, grizzly chains, Thompson mix, begrimed chains, carburetor tuning guide, rusted chains, and Thompson's moonshine. They would then be replaced by junkyard air filter, heavy clutch, big buckle, punctured muffler, mother's helpers, leafy mash, black grease, tuned carburetor, and pig house clubs. This would be such a horrible move because many players expressed their dislike of these changes because there were only a few add-ons that needed some tweaks in order to satisfy the community. Instead, what they did was replace all of the Hillbilly's add-ons for more shittier ones that are better off rotting in the add-on menu. Behavior's hate for the Hillbilly persists to this day, with the death of Skybilly and the nerfing of both Death and Doom engravings in the most recent patch. Okay, let's get a little technical here, boys. I want to propose some changes for the Hillbilly to make him more bearable to play in the game. But first, we need to set some ground rules. I will not mention that behavior should revert to changes to the Hillbilly's base kit, because it's sadly here to stay, and behavior has really made their opinion clear about keeping the overheat mechanic on his chainsaw. But what I will do is cover 3 add-ons in particular that really need some tweaking if people will use them for the Hillbilly. Those 3 add-ons I want to change up a little bit are Big Buckle, Leafy Mash, and Black Grease. Let's take a look at their effects, shall we? Big Buckle decreases the tear radius by 8 meters when a chainsaw is overheated. Leafy Mash, gain the undetectable status effect for 15 seconds after landing a chainsaw hit. Black Grease, increase chainsaw rev speed for 30 seconds after being blinded by 18%. These effects are extremely niche because an average hillbilly player always tries to avoid overheating their chainsaw and always avoids flashlights in general. In fact, every killer avoids flashlights in general. Leafy Mash sounds good on paper, but in practice it's rarely useful because after downing a survivor, you're either going to hook a survivor or leave them slug. Both are equally bad because you're rarely going to get any use out of it, because if you leave said survivor slugged and go for another survivor, your window on getting a hit on another survivor without them noticing is extremely small, to the point you can't even stick your arm through it. Like, seriously, it's so fucking small. Just keep in mind that I'm not the best with game balancing, so take my changes with a tiny grain of salt. So my proposal is this. New Leafy Mash. Gain the undetectable status effect, and the chainsaw is completely silent outside of an 8 meter tear radius mark for 25 seconds after hooking a survivor. This would be better for the hillbilly because this could synergize well with perks, add-ons, and even maps like Tinker, Hex Plaything, Shell Torment, Midwitch, and Black Grease. If the survivor you're gonna jump scare has a flashlight, speaking of Black Grease, New Black Grease. When blinded by a flashlight, chainsaw red speed is increased by 20% for 18 seconds. The reason I think this change is a good call is because we finally have an insta-assault combo we had pre 4.2.0. But I decided to put a catch to it because the insta-assault combo was a little too controversial for people's tastes. New Big Buckle. Leaves all survivors exposed when chainsaw is overheated. Removes exposed when chainsaw is completely cooled. Big Buckle is the worst offender to bad add-ons because it's just not useful in any given circumstance. I decided to play 20 games with Big Buckle and I have not gotten no use from it whatsoever. If there's going to be an add-on that benefits from the saw being overheated, this is the way to do it, in my humble opinion. For me, Hillbilly has not stood the test of time in recent years with the nerfs he has taken, so please behavior. Buff Hillbilly, please. It can even be like a small buff, just throw us a bone. Okay, at this point I'm begging a video game dev team to buff a character they don't want to buff. Anyways, the Hillbilly's history is extremely jam-packed, which is why I decided to leave some stuff out and only focus on, the main stuff that happened to the Hillbilly. You would know if you've been watching this video. I really hope behavior considers what I had to offer, but it's unlikely. My name is MacManiac, and I hope we'll meet again in a new video. Goodbye.